Hey guys, welcome back to Jessin Reads Romance. I'm Jessin, and today I'm going to be doing my August wrap-up. So I'm going to be talking about all the books that I've read, how many, were they contemporary, were they urban fantasy, paranormal, whatever. I'm going to go over all of those details. We're going to break it down with some stats, and then I'm going to go over what was my favorite and least favorite books that I read during the month. Okay, so first things first. How many books did I read during the month of August? I read 35 books and I had one DNF during the month of August. So there was 36 books that I picked up. And I finished 35 of them, and I DNF'd one. 4 of those books were rereads. A lot of that was for the podcast, or one of them was definitely A Bad Day for Sunshine because I needed a refresher before A Good Day for Chardonnay. And then I discovered 10 new authors. When you're breaking it down with indie versus traditional, it's not really a surprise because I've talked about this multiple times that indie romance authors are just hitting the spot for me more times than not. I really don't gravitate toward traditionally published books anymore. A lot of them can be really overhyped, and sometimes it's like a turnoff for me when you hear so much about a book. It raises your expectations and it makes you really hesitant to pick them up. Also, there's a whole conversation about cartoon covers giving off the rom-com-y vibe. Is it a rom-com? Is it not? We really don't know. There's a lot of confusion when you're just looking at a book nowadays when it comes from a traditional publisher. So anyway, like I said, I've been gravitating more towards independently published books, and it's not really a surprise that I read 30 independently published books as opposed to the 6 traditionals that I read. It's a big gap. Now for ratings. How does it all break down? I felt like I read more middling books, but when I'm looking at the numbers, I actually had quite a bit of 5, 4.5, and 4 stars. I read 7 5 stars, 7 4.5 stars, 9 4 stars, 4 3.5 stars, but I did have 8 3 stars. And that's what I was feeling, that combination between the 8 and the 4. That's a lot. I like it to lean more towards the 5, 4.5, and 4 range. I think all readers want to have a good book and not dislike the books that they're picking up, but still. Compared to other months that I've had, I just feel like this one was more of a mixed bag, I guess. Not necessarily more bad books or less enjoyable books. I would have liked there to be more books that I was really hyped about. And then I had that one DNF, The Chief. Now let's look at genre. Not really a surprise, 22 contemporaries. I've been really loving mafia and rom-droms instead of rom-coms. I really don't gravitate towards rom-coms anymore. If it has a funny element, cool, but the ones that are marketed as rom-coms, those are not the ones that I'll pick up. But I don't mind if there's funny elements in the books. I love there to be funny elements in the books. And also dark romance, which tends to be contemporary as well. I read a lot of dark romance during the month of August, so that's why there's the majority of the books that I read were contemporary. I had 6.5 historicals and 2.5 paranormals. One of the books that I read was both a historical romance, it was a Scottish Highlander romance, and a paranormal romance because there was wolf shifters in it. So that's why I split it between those two, because it was really half and half, and I like those books. And I'm searching for more historical paranormal books. I really loved Karen Marie Moning's Highlander series, which is kind of like that, a historical fantasy element. And there's a Mary Jo Putney series that's historical and paranormal. It has some fantasy elements as well. So yeah, I'm definitely on the lookout for more books like that. I read 3 fantasy books, 1 urban fantasy book, which was a reread for me, and then 1 sci-fi romance, so 1 alien romance. I only had 1 arc, and that was The Casanova by T.L. Swan. I didn't really have a lot of arcs. I could have read a lot of the books that are coming out in September, and the virus kind of really messed up my reading experience in August. I still had a good one, but it just kind of threw me for a loop, I guess you would say. I like to be a little bit more prepared when it comes to arcs, read them a little bit earlier, the month before they come out, but most of the books that are coming out in September that I have arcs for are coming out towards the end of the month, which is great. 11 of the books were audiobooks. 12 were ebooks that I owned. I either got them for free or they were on sale or whatever, and I read them. And 12 were from Kindle Unlimited, and that number's wrong. I read 0 paperbacks. I'm gonna have to fix that, but I didn't read any books in physical format in the month of August. Okay, so now let's talk about my favorites and my least favorite books that I read during the month of August. Of course, my rereads are some of my favorites. So I really love Filthy, I really loved A Bad Day for Sunshine, so on and so forth. Until I'm Yours by Kennedy Ryan was definitely the standout of the Bennett series. It's number 4 in the Bennett series, and it was very surprising because the heroine is actually kind of a villainous character in the first 2 books, and I was unaware that she was going to get an HEA. Very surprised when I picked the book up to see her name. Pretty floored when that turned out by being the best book in the series. When a Girl Loves an Earl by Elisa Braden. This is book 5 in her Rescued from Ruin series. Definitely my favorite, I think, of the entire Rescued from Ruin series so far. There are 9 books. I'm definitely listening to the audiobooks on Anyplay. On Anyplay. They're all on Anyplay. I love it. Love it. If you haven't checked out Anyplay, you totally should. I think it's a very worthwhile subscription. They have so many books, especially new releases. You'd be surprised about the new releases that appear on Anyplay like the day of release. It's amazing. But yeah, When a Girl Loves an Earl really gave me like all the feels. I loved Viola's character. She was such a different historical romance heroine. She was very beautiful, very sought after. She had these gut feelings that she knew when she followed them, good things happened, because of her past experiences with her like gut feelings, her inklings or whatever she calls them. And the second that she hears that this Earl of Tannenbrook, James, this Earl of Tannenbrook had defended the honor of her friend very forcefully in front of the entire ton, she hears his name and she has this inkling that she has got to meet this man. And she sees him and she's just like, this is the one for me. She's turned down multiple marriage proposals, but like he is the one. And he is so big and intimidating looking. He's like this big Scottish man. He's like afraid to break her because she's so dainty. And it was such an enjoyable read. So very much stand out for historical romance. Also, Never Seduce a Scot by Maya Banks. That book was so beautiful. The heroine is deaf and not a lot of people know that she's deaf. And the hero is so caring, so understanding, so much on her side, and I just love the way that he loves her. Another standout was Take by Pam Godwin. This is an extremely dark romance, the entire series has a lot to do with sex trafficking. The hero of this book is a villain character from a previous book, and I did not know how she was going to redeem him at all. I'm like, he is unredeemable, but she did it. I don't know how she does it. She has like the magic touch. She definitely takes care. She doesn't rush trying to redeem such a villainous character. I just think that she's a phenomenal writer, and this book surprised me because I was so hesitant going in. I was convinced that there was no way that this character, Tiago, would be redeemed for me, and I ended up by really loving the relationship, which is very surprising. So Pam Godwin, amazing. Next, I kind of want to talk about books that maybe disappointed me. Not necessarily my least favorite books that I read during the month of August, but books that I might have had expectations for, and I was a little let down whenever I read them. I don't normally do this, but I wanted to touch on a few. The first one being The Casanova by T.L. Swan. I really like the Miles High Club series, which is her series with Montlake. And I've read a couple of her independently published books. They're a little too long. They need a lot more editing than they're currently getting. And so it's not really an enjoyable reading experience to read T.L. Swan's independently published books for me personally. I know a lot of people love them, but The Stopover and The Takeover, which The Takeover is one of my favorite books like ever. I just love it so much. It's just, it's one of the most perfect books. I love it. Those have a lot more editing and it's a little bit cleaner, and I don't know, the stories are tighter and I really like the characters and the situations. So The Casanova is another Miles brother, and his situation has kind of been teased, and I don't like the execution of this plot. It was quite disappointing. Did warm up to the characters because the pairing was a little bit surprising to me. I did warm up to their relationship, but then the conflict just didn't play out in a way that I found satisfying. So yeah, The Casanova was something that I was highly anticipating, and it ended up by being like a 3.5 star. I'm kind of leaning more towards a 3. I don't know. I fluctuate. Whenever I look at that book, I don't have like happy thoughts about it. So it's just, I feel bad because I do like parts of it, but when I look at the book, I think about the bad parts. So that was disappointing for me. Then we have Burn It Down by Jay Wolf. I did give this book 4 stars, but it was really lacking more of a bully element, which is the point of that series, The Savage Crew. There's been a lot of interesting things that Jay Wolf has done in books 1 and books 2 with bully elements, like true bully elements. And I just felt like this one was lacking intensity in that aspect. So I was a little bit let down in that aspect of bullying, but it's not that the relationship was unenjoyable to me, so that's why it was a 4 star, but I just kind of wanted to mention that one. Morning Glory Milking Farm. It's not that I had expectations for this book, but it was a very popular hype book around Instagram and Book Talk, which I'm not on, but I heard about it. I've been reading monster romances. One of my favorites is The Lady of Rooksgrave Manor by Catherine Moon. I thought that that was beautifully done, and it was a reverse harem romance, so you got lots of monsters. But this one, there was just, it was fine, but it didn't do anything for me. It was kind of the shock value of it, this Minotaur milking facility, and the characters kind of had an instant connection, but there was nothing really going for the book besides that. And a lot of the moments weren't really sexy, so it was like a lot of stuff was missing for Morning Glory Milking Farm for me. And Her Soul to Take by Harley LaRue. This is something that I really thought was going to work for me. It has more of a gothic like feel to it, but it's not truly dark. It has some lighter elements. I fully expected that this was going to be like a really awesome discovery. I've never read anything by Harley LaRue, and I was just so uninterested in everything about this book. I was uninterested in the characters. I didn't connect to Ray. I thought she was kind of a boring character. Leon was the most interesting character. He was the demon. The plot with the family of the town that had control of Leon and the witchcraft elements and stuff like that, that was all disappointing. It didn't really do much for me. So most of my disappointing reads were like 3 stars, which is an okay book, you know what I'm saying? But the lowest book that I rated, I would consider Sweet as Sin. I did give it 3 stars. I rounded up, but kind of in my mind when I look at it, I would say it's more of a 2.5 star. But in my wrap up, I considered it a 3 star, but I probably should have rated it a 2.5 star. The beginning was very promising. I really liked the setup. I really was like, ooh, this chemistry is really good. This banter is really good. I love this emotional aspect to their relationship that happens pretty early on, but then it kind of goes downhill. We get like a lot of intense emotions in the beginning. You could see they're falling hard and fast, and then all of a sudden we get so many conflicts in a row. It was so unenjoyable because as soon as one conflict ended and was resolved, the next day or a few hours later, there was another conflict to take its place. So I felt like these characters really had trust issues, at least to me. I don't understand how they, at the end of that book, they could have been like, oh yeah, we're in a stable relationship now. I think more time should have passed, and JT Gessinger really could have pulled back on the conflict area. She really threw everything but the kitchen sink into this book when it comes to conflicts, rockstar conflicts. Like, there was so much going on, and it really made it so enjoyable. So I was like, oh yeah, I love this book. I love this book. It's so great. And then I was like, oh no. And then the rest of the book just went tanked, just tanked. So that was probably my least favorite book that I read in August. And then I did have one DNF, The Chief by Monica McCarty. This book has been recommended to me a lot of times. I just felt like there was a lack of conflict in this book. I made it up to 40% into the audiobook, I believe, and I was really bored. I found myself pausing a lot and doing other stuff. I should have been able to knock that book out very fast, and I was just like, what's the point? What's going on? Like, there's not really much happening romantically. There's nothing plot-wise that could create a conflict or any tension. Like, I felt no tension. I felt directionless while I was listening to the book because I was just like, stuff is happening. They're walking around the castle, they're meeting people, and nothing was really happening. So I'm not saying that I wouldn't ever try to pick it up again and finish it and just see what all the hype is about, because like I said, this book has been recommended, the series has been recommended to me so many times as a good Scottish historical romance to read. I was just not feeling it. So that's all the books that I read in August. It was a lot less than I had read in June and July, and I hadn't done a July wrap up because I was sick during the end of July and the beginning of August. But I was reading a lot of books in like April, May, June, July, and August, obviously huge drop off because I was sick, and I think you'll continue to see that I'm going to read less and less and less books. So I read 35 books in total for the month, and in September, you'll probably see a little bit less for me. All right, guys, that is it. That's all I have for my August reading wrap up. If you like this video, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you subscribe to get notified on any future videos that I do. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, life's better with little HEA. Bye, guys.